What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and it's EGR cooler time on your 3.2 liter Puma. So as we can see, there's absolutely no coolant in the bottle here. I'm not even going to show you. The thing was smoking so bad. It's definitely losing coolant. I don't know if you'll be able to see, but the connection over here for the EGR cooler to the exhaust manifold, let me see if I can zoom in. You might be able to kind of see that whole bottom of the clamp was filled with orange coolant, and you could see it leaking down actually on the bell housing. So yeah, this isn't the first one. I just kind of want to go over and show you guys an overview of how I do an EGR cooler. This is what works best for me because it is tight. There's no way around it. It really sucks, but my way of showing, I'm gonna try to help others who are maybe struggling doing the same job. So, all right, the first thing I'm gonna do is get this hood out of the way. I'm going to take the whole cowl off, the wiper blades. I'm going to go ahead and remove this too. So our next shot you're going to see is going to be none of this stuff and more closer to the engine. Alright, you can see how much more open it is with all this garbage out of the way. I'm going to go ahead and remove this. I'm going to take off this heat shield for the turbo so I can get to this small heat shield. A bunch of 10s and 8s. Some of them can be kind of rusty, so like these two right here don't look that good. But yeah, we're gonna move across the engine. We're gonna take care of this side first, so we're gonna get this out of my way. There's going to be a vacuum line that goes to the EGR bypass. This is going to have to be undone. There's oh, we got a different kind of clamp on here. Usually it's a like a CV boot clamp on here, so we'll be able to take this off no problem. Be careful because I've broken this nipple off of this solenoid, so note to self. So yeah, both heat shields coming out. All right, boys, so you can see we got no more heat shield. Looking pretty nasty over there. I did already get the bypass line off the solenoid, and we're just gonna kind of flop this right here to get it out of our way. So now I went and sprayed a little penetrant here on this nut and this clamp. We're not going to reuse anymore. Got a new one. We're going to go ahead and just rip this boy out. Or not. Well, now we're going to have to cut it off. Okay, so she's cut. Check it out, look at that clamp. Just full of coolant, man. Just full of coolant. So you want to pop this old one off. Oh. Yeah, that boy been leaking for a minute. Remember to keep organized. Keep everything in order. Alright. Right, so we're gonna just leave this flopping now because this is gonna come with us when we take the cooler off, and we're going to move over to this side. I know it looks kind of complicated at first, but I'm gonna dissect all of this and get more visual access. I'm gonna start by not draining the I'm going to start by not draining the coolant because the hoses that I have to take off, I'm only draining the radiator, and I am not going to be able to drain everything out of these hoses. So For amount of coolant that this does not have and was going out the tailpipe, there cannot be that much coolant in the engine or in the system anyway. So what I like to do is, once I get this all dissected, I like to lift it up, take all the clamps off the hoses and slide them back, and then I can reach my arm from up here and go down and take the hoses off, so that I can just let it go into a pan and I'm not trying to loosen or pop the hoses off while I'm going to be taking a bath. So it's taken me quite a few times to get it down how I do it, and the way the process, doing this first and then this and then this and then this, I'm up and down, up and down. It really helps when it's on a hoist, but I mean, I understand if you can't lift it, it would definitely be more of a pain in the butt. So, all right, we're gonna dissect this and get it a little more visually appealing. All right, you guys can see it definitely looks different. We need to remove this whole piece. This is the Egr valve and mixer tube. So what I did is, you guys saw those hoses that were up here. I disconnected them, and they're both just coiled up right above this AC manifold line set. And then I got a couple other hoses just wrapped around over here, just shoved anywhere I can get it out of my way. Additionally, there are some let's show you right here. There's 4 of them. There's 3 wood screws and 1 fine coarse thread screws, or little bolts, that hold on the bracket for the brake booster to vacuum pump hose that goes over here. Then the fine wood screw which holds on this harness, and then there's another one that holds it here, and then another one that affixes that to the intake manifold. So really it was able to allow me to move the harness just enough so I could get this connector off, the FRP sensor off, and a little twang that the harness went through, and that's these connectors right here. It also let me disconnect the Egr valve. One thing you want to remove in this Egr mixer tube pipe is the EGRT sensor. It's a 14 milli. I usually have these come right out, never have an issue with those. And then that kind of leaves me right where I'm at right now. These connections right here can be rusty and fight you, so before I do anything, I spray that with some penetrant. I'm going to come back here with 8 milli ratcheting wrench, this combo right here, and I'm going to take both of those bolts out, and then we're going to get to the next step. Okay, I've gotten those 2 bolts out successfully. I did want to mention too, I forgot to let you guys know, so you guys might be seeing something like this. This is the trans vent tube. It actually went right here in a little twang, and it just located itself and was just hanging here. Went on one of these coolant lines, you know, something like this, you know, on this line. So you're gonna actually be taking that rubber hose off the Egr valve. So I'm just gonna reach down here and take this locating tab off so that I can have it free, because I'm actually gonna pull it out of my way once I get down downstairs. So let's lift this thing up, and I'm gonna show you the first connections we're gonna do underneath, so that we can successfully take off these coolant lines without taking a bath. All right, so we're underneath. I'm going to show you where I go first. You need to, this is that trans vent line I was telling you about. You need to take that off, and then you can go above the trans and you can actually work that line off. So we got 1 coolant line clamp here. We got to take that back. We got 1 on this line, and then there's 1 upstairs that we're going to get. You can actually see it right there. We can get it all 7 millis. And then we're going to go ahead and get this first bolt out of the EGR cooler to EGR mixer. That bolt is serving two functions, not only pulling those two components together, but it's also holding this line fast so I cannot move it. I need to move this pipe because up there, unfortunately, there's a bolt that's behind it, and I need to get that bolt out, and I can't do that if this is mounted fast. So we're going to do what I just said, and then we're going to go back upstairs. So take note, we got two coolant line clamps we're getting off. Get this vent tube thing out of your way, and we're going to lower it back down. Okay, so once you're done, it should look something like that. I got my clamps off. I got the bolt out of that pipe. I told you that first bolt right there. And then right there, you see that nut and that stud. We are not going to be separating the EGR valve from the mixing tube. This is all coming out as one piece. So that is the one of the keys that I like to keep that together. It doesn't need to be messed with, and it's going to be coming down right where you see this moving down. It's going to come right out through here. I went and took out this starter bolt that held this big cable. Big cable is in my way, and sometimes I get snagged on it, so I don't want you guys to get snagged on it. So now I have a more open area for the EGR valve to come out. Oh, I'm sorry, the EGR cooler and valve as two pieces. So all right, you guys, I'm coming back down, and we're gonna snake off those rubber hoses now. Alrighty, I've gotten both coolant lines, and I'm gonna go for the third one, which is right here. That one's that's no big deal to do, but so at the very bottom, remember, we're at the bottom of the vehicle. We had a bolt going through here that that metal line had on there. So this bolt's already out, so we have 3 more bolts, and they're kind of a pain to get to, obviously, but there is another one. So that coolant line actually goes up to right here, and there's another bracket that bolts to the back of the cylinder head. So now that we got that bolt out and that pipe is going to be loose, we're going to take this bolt out first, then we'll be able to get this bolt out, and then we'll be able to get this bolt out. You have to use a ratcheting wrench, 10 millimeter. This is what I use. It's all going to be feeling with your hands. You're not going to be able to see any of these bolts, so I'm telling you, visualize this with me. This is how it sits on the back of the engine. We've already got this taken care of. We have 3 more bolts. 1, 2, 3. This was the first one we removed. So going back together is going to be a little more trickier. What I like to do is I like to get this bolt started finger tight so the cooler can hang. Then I come over here and I put my clamp on, and I mount the clamp in a way that I can get it. But then I come back over here, I tighten this one. I'm gonna go over this again, but for sake of argument, I'm just giving you a really quick overview. But all right, here we go. Okay, I have gotten all 4 bolts out, and the cooler is going to be loose. Look at the coolant pour out. Oh man, that's nasty. So
You think the cooler was leaking?
So what I need to do is I need to take the cooler and I need to move it over as far as I can to this, that I can on this way, so that I can get this EGR mixer tube out. I'm going to let the EGR mixer tube go down onto the drain bucket that I got on the bottom of the floor, and then I'm going to take the EGR cooler and we're gonna go just like this. I don't know how I'm gonna show you that, but you guys need to visualize. So the cooler is sitting in here. Let me show you here. So the cooler's got a coolant line on it and that vacuum harness. So I'm gonna take this cooler and I'm gonna go just like this, right down through that opening. Cooler's gonna come down and go like that. The procedure is to remove the intake manifold, but I'm able to sneak this out. So the next shot you're gonna see is this old cooler on the floor. I wish I could show you how, but it's too tight and I don't have 3 arms. Ta-da! I'm not gonna lie, I spent like 5 minutes trying to get the right angle on the dangle to get it out from behind the engine and the firewall, but you guys can see how wet that is. I am going to have to transfer everything over, so I got to take this off, I have to take this off, I have to take this hose off, and get it lined up with everything else. Make sure when you get the new cooler to check to see if this has been dropped. I didn't note that on one job, and I had a vacuum leak. Check engine light kept coming on, and I had to take it off again because this was damaged. Ugh. So, note to self, also when you take the EGR mixer tube out, make sure the O-ring comes out of the intake. That might screw you. I didn't ever notice that there was an O-ring right there, and I had an exhaust leak. So you can see the valve and the mixer are still attached. There is a gasket between there. I'm not really going to mess with it. Going to clean everything up. We have arrows or lines indicating the orientation for each of the hoses. And yeah, let's get this thing ready to be put back in. Alright, we're all set to go. I got the new O-ring on the mixer tube, cleaned up our gasket. These are going to mount like this, and this gasket is going to need to be juggled in between there. So once you get the cooler up in there, you know, get it all the way over to the right so that you can get this back up in there. Once you get this up into the intake manifold, go ahead and loosely install your 2 8mm. So this is going to eventually be kind of hanging like this. You're gonna need to prop it up because it's gonna be hanging. You need to prop it up because it's gonna be hanging. So once, I need you guys to visualize this EGR mixer tube here. Once you get the cooler over, don't mess with the mixer yet. You want to, I'm almost bear hugging the engine with both my hands, both my arms. You need to get your first bolt in here. You need to get the cooler hung. Get it hanging on one bolt. Then I want you to come over to the passenger side, and I want you can get it nice and flush to the exhaust manifold. Go ahead and get your new clamp, put your new clamp on, orientate it in a fashion that you'll be able to get to the nut. You are going to get a new nut as well. Go ahead and leave this finger tight. Get it loose enough to where it's not going to separate, but come back over here, thread this in a little more to bring it down closer to the engine. Then I want you to, however you got to do it, I have to do it with one hand. I'm going to slip this gasket up. I'm going to come upstairs. I'm doing this all, under the hood. I'm going to slip this gasket between the mixer and the EGR cooler, and that is going to allow me to start this bolt. Okay, so that's good. Once I get that bolt started, I got no issue. What am I going to do now? Then I'm going to come downstairs and I'm going to put this bolt through and just loosely install it. That's all I want to do, is just loosely install so that I have my gasket lined up. Make sure you do it, because I was like this and I had an exhaust leak. I thought I had it. Lower it back down. I want you to come back over here. I want you to tighten this clamp all the way. Okay? Then I want you to jump over to the passenger side. I want you to tighten your two 8 millis, snug them down. I want you to come back to the back of the cooler. I want you to tighten this bolt all the way down. I want you to lift it back up. I want you to take this bolt back out. The gasket's not going to move because now we have this top bolt tight. I want you to now tighten the cooler to the back of the cylinder head. Okay. Once you do that, I want you to go back down here. I want you to loosely install this bolt. Lower it back down. I want you to now line up this bolt. You'll have to to get it to line up, but this has got to be loose. So once you get this once you get this started, I want you to go back down underneath. I want you to fully tighten this bolt, and then I want you to go back upstairs, and I want you to tighten this bolt. And then everything else is pretty much backwards with how you took it off. Get your coolant lines back on. Go ahead and put your heat shields back on. And don't forget to fill it up with coolant. When you put the cooler in, make sure that this is free. You want it sitting just like this. You don't want it pinched between the cylinder head. You can see this bend in it right here. This is how you want it. This is how it's got to sit along the side of the engine. So make sure you don't pinch this in your way. So, all right, you guys, tell me what you think about this in the comment section below. It may seem a little scatterbrained making this video, but it's for good intents. And I want to show you guys my way of doing the EGR cooler on these 3.2 Pumas. So drop me a like and subscribe. Tell me what you think in the comment section below. Hope everybody had a good New Year's. And as always, thanks for watching. EGR cooler out. Okay, we got the tranny done. All freshly cleaned. Oh boy, look what we got. Stay tuned.